Thanks for checking out another new podcast from the Association for Materials Protection and Performance. Of course, we're best known as AMP for short. As always, I'm your host, Ben Duvos, news editor with the AMP Publications team. In that role, I create content for both Coatings Pro magazine and Materials Performance magazine, both of which are member magazines of AMP. Today, to speak about the protective coatings market and the increasing role of artificial intelligence in it, we're joined by Jeff Chirac, Global Managing Director of AkzoNobel's powder coatings business. Jeff, thanks so much for taking the time. Can you start by giving a little bit of information about your career biography, along with some details of your current role with AkzoNobel?
Sure. Thanks, Ben. Thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm Jeff Chirac with AkzoNobel's powder coatings business. My career spans 32 years now in the industry of specialty materials, polymers, coatings, and specialty chemicals. I spent the early part of my career in DuPont. Spent 23 years with DuPont and also the spinoff Chemours. I ran the DuPont Teflon coatings business for a few years. And then shortly after the spinoff of Chemours, I moved to AkzoNobel on the chemicals side. And I ran their surface chemistry business for North and South America prior to the sale of the AkzoNobel chemicals business to private equity. And then after that sale of the business to private equity, I went and worked for another private equity firm to grow a specialty polymer additives business called Valtris Specialty Chemicals. That was owned by HIG Capital, and HIG asked me to come in and grow that business and build a business of 5 companies that they had purchased. And we did that over a period of 3 years during COVID and all the other crazy stuff that happened in the last few years. And we were able to bring that business to a nice growth path and sold that to SK Capital in 2022. And then I came over to run the powder business. In AkzoNobel, the powder business is we're the world leader in powder coatings. We have 33 sites around the world. It's about 1.4 billion euros in revenue. It's a very large business, about 4,000 employees across the world. And it's a great portfolio of products. We have the full offering, multiple polymer chemistries that apply to different elements of the market needs. We're focused on automotive, architectural, general industrial, consumer appliances, electric vehicles. We have some functional electric resistive polymers that work on coatings for not only electric vehicles, but also electric motors and different elements that have a functional capability. So in each of these market segments, we have a very broad base of product offerings that meet kind of the new needs in the market for durability and corrosion, good aesthetics. We're able to mimic now aesthetics that are almost any kind of surface you need on basic metal. We can apply it, and you can make your metal look like any form of natural metal, gold, silver, platinum, nickel, copper, you name it. You can make aluminum or steel look like that. And nowadays, you can also make it look like wood. You can have metal finishes that look like wood using powder coatings. So we have some very interesting advancements going on in architectural elements. That's where I was just at the architectural show in Washington, D.C., meeting with architects. And we have a lot of, one of the benefits in architectural is powder coatings by nature are low VOC. They have a better environmental footprint. And so there's a lot of LEED certification and things that you can get by designing your building with powder coatings. Plus you get the durability, the corrosion resistance, and all these aesthetic elements that can now be done with powder. In the automotive space, we're expanding uses. There's a lot of uses within the car, under the hood, underbody, suspension systems, anything that needs durability, brake calipers, springs, etc. Those are all kind of really good traditional uses. But now we're also expanding into body parts, truck body. There's a lot of new new companies in the EV space are really challenging the traditional liquid application on car bodies, and it's starting in the truck space, utility space, and I think it's moving towards the passenger car. So there's a whole new market opening up there. Powder coatings are they're not quite at the liquid level, but they're pretty darn close. And the weighing of the environmental footprint of what powder can provide as far as low VOCs, and you can pass the parts through on a one pass through their production lines. In automotive, there's a lot of advantages to move to powder, and we see that happening quite rapidly. So the growth rates in powder are really good right now.
Speaking of the environmental benefits, should mention that you guys recently announced your official partnership with the EPA's Green Power Partnership. Yep. That was part of what went on this week in DC. You're based in Nashville, but you were out in DC. You mentioned the conference, but I know you've got meetings with domestic and international entities. How important in the modern environment is that level of collaboration? Because there's more of an interconnected nature to the industry at present than I feel like there ever has been before. So when we talk about working with government, when we talk about working with various high-profile clients, how important is it to sort of build up those relationships the way I know you were trying to do this week in DC?
Yeah, so we actually had an evening get-together at the Dutch Embassy where we had a forum of 25 architects, developers, people from the building construction industry. And we basically had a roundtable around sustainability in the built environment for construction of new buildings. And what was very interesting is everybody on the panel and in the audience were contributing. It got to be a very active discussion. Mm-hmm. And the architects themselves said, we're getting a lot more requests for embodying green and sustainable capability in the materials that they're purchasing, for the new buildings. And this is coming straight from the architects who, traditionally, architects are very creative. They want buildings to kind of have their own signature. But one of the key messages that they gave to us in the coating space was, we need to embed green and sustainable capability in the coatings. And that's really what AkzoNobel is all about. We are very grounded in our sustainability drive and vision. It is core to what we do. So a lot of the work we are doing with coatings is, doing things around having extensions of warranties so that coatings on buildings, for example, are durable enough to withstand weathering for 30 years. So when you put it on a building, there's, you don't have to resurface it. You don't have to regenerate things and create waste. There's also a lot going on in the performance testing that we do, where we, essentially can lower the film thickness of our coating and get the same performance in many of our applications. These are all ways to help us with our and our customers, mainly with our carbon footprint reduction. We're looking at product life cycle. How do we deal with the entire life cycle of the parts that are coated? And as an industry, it was interesting in this forum is everybody's on board with that, and it's the momentum is building. And we had a lady in the audience who was a specifier for a hotel chain, which was kind of interesting. And their mission, as in their hotel chain, it's a boutique hotel chain, several cities in the U.S. where they're building, basically sustainable hotels. And they're getting each one of their hotels certified. They're specifying sustainable materials in these hotels. And so it was an interesting perspective from an end user who's taken on the message of sustainability all the way into how they're specifying their hotel builds. And we had the architects right there with us in the room, and they were adding to, yes, this is becoming much more of a request in the industry. And so that was I think the momentum is shifting. to this sustainability embedded within the product design and within our innovation, and that's core of what we do at AkzoNobel.
So I know there's going to be some variance in terms of what someone needs for their corrosion protection based on the environment that they're in. But what common themes are there when you talk to these people as far as what they're needing, what their challenges are? Obviously, climate change is something we talk about in the 2020s. Just speak to, if you could, the common themes when it comes to corrosion concerns in the built environment and the types of technologies and solutions that you all have at AkzoNobel to potentially address those.
Yeah, so I mean, generally speaking, the location of the building, whether it's near a seacoast or it's inland, it's in a hot climate, cold climate, whatever,
Right.
those are the varying variables on what types of materials and really the performance levels that are needed.
Yep.
Those performance levels, obviously, at AkzoNobel, we have the full spectrum of performance levels. We offer materials with warranties as high as 30 years in the industry. We've done a lot of weather testing, UV testing in a lot of different environments, and we put our products through very strenuous testing so that we can show, within the product portfolio, there's varying degrees of selection that an architect and a building designer can use depending on the environment. There's lots of different ways to go about corrosion control. Corrosion control is just one of our technology platforms. One of the things we find in coatings is there's a part of coatings that's in the design of the chemistry of the coating, the polymers, the additives, the different tricks we may have in our laboratories. But there's also just as much of an importance on how you apply it and the surface preparation of the metal, for example. And depending on the environment that it's going to be in, for example, on a seacoast, we have the AMA certifications here in the US. We have the Qualicoat certifications in Europe. We have all of the testing data for those qualifications, but an architect can choose, based on our technical support, what might be the best, cost versus technology offering to meet a certain specification, depending on what they're trying to achieve with their design. And the part of AkzoNobel's powder coatings offering is offering that technical support. And again, we have the full range of products to offer depending on what their criteria is for the building. And in each one of these product offerings, we obviously have the performance part with the durability, the corrosion resistance, depending on where it's located. But we also back that with various warranties based on our testing data to give that assurance to the building owner, the building designer, the architect, because they're all putting their name on that building. And many of these buildings that they're doing this with is, they're very substantial buildings. Usually they're some monumental, as they call them, big skyscrapers. We've done a lot of work in New York and Washington and Chicago, San Francisco, other cities, and then around the world. Clearly, we've had very prominent buildings that have been selected to use our coatings because of their durability. And a lot of it's the preparation and the technical advice we provide while they're coating to make sure that the aluminum surface preparation is proper. All the pre-treatment is proper, and then the actual coating goes on in a very certified way. Mm-hmm. So that's where this whole CoatingAI thing has come up, where we've now partnered with an AI company to help us develop a set of an algorithm that will help clients and customers set up their processing lines for how to spray the powder, how to cure the powder, how to do that in the most optimal way. So you get very good first pass yields, you get good productivity through their lines. And that's part of what we offer to our clients.
Yeah, and that's really important to our audience because certainly with materials performance, we cover the engineering and technology space within corrosion control. But at Coatings Pro, we talk about the end applications as well. And so I think the CoatingAI partnership that you've put together in recent years is very, very noteworthy, particularly with the overall emphasis on AI really across the board in this industry and beyond. So you gave a good outline there. Can you explain a little bit more about specifically how that CoatingAI system works, what the potential savings are, and so on and so forth?
We've we've worked with this firm in an exclusive way where we've basically loaded data and database information from all of our testing, various different lines. We have a lot of data from over the years that we've compiled, and then as we're working with customers, we're also testing new lines, new configurations. In the powder world, you can coat almost any shape, size. We're coating things as large as cement truck mixers. The other day I learned we're coating an entire truck, a car carrier, the entire truck, a brand new car carrier. That whole truck carrier is going through an oven, and in each of these ovens, there's pre-treatment. There's the powder being applied typically through robotics, robotic guns, electrostatic guns. These guns can be at different levels, different nozzles, different spray patterns and frequencies. There's lots of variables. And what the AI programming has done is helped us narrow it down to the optimization of those variables, depending on the size of the part, the type configuration of the part, and how the customer wants to process that part with film thickness. You got cure times depending on the type of powder they've chosen. And then also there's this whole concept of oven temperature management, right? So from a sustainability perspective, we want to make sure customers use the least amount of energy needed to cure the polymer. But in many cases, you can adjust throughput as well. So you can get more productivity through a line. You get more capital, the use of capital becomes much more of a benefit to the customer. And so we're just getting started with this, but we're finding customers are really in tune, because not only does it help you tune your process so that it can be very sustainable to the optimal use of energy, but it also can optimize a customer's capital investment, their cost structure, their yield loss. And one of the interesting things that we found was that one of the bigger benefits is that we can help customers not produce defects when they're doing changeovers in parts, because a lot of our customers, they run different types of parts all the time. Different configurations. And what they can do is program the configuration into the algorithm, and it'll give kind of an initial setting of guns, heat temperatures, speeds, etc. And what we found is you get pretty close on that first pass. And what customers are saying is that saves them a lot of defect rejects, where, when you do that with a human being, you tend to, it takes longer. You have to go through several runs. And, when you're coating some big parts, that can be very costly, just in the yield loss alone on those first couple of parts in the batch run. And so this is becoming, a real useful tool for us to help customers. And it's a big part of our offering, not only having a broad spectrum of products to offer the powder market, but then help our customers understand what they can do to optimize their lines. I mean, that's what we do.
You mentioned the positive feedback. I'm curious if there's areas that need further refining, improvement. Maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it's areas that need expanding as you get more used to the technology. Just speak to, I guess, what the future looks like in areas that you're still trying to develop over the next few years.
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest thing, because it's AI, it is machine learning. You're learning from a database of data. So as the data builds and you look at different gun configurations, temperatures, part sizes, all these different variables, the machine learning in that helps to optimize it. And we've seen, there's always more room to grow there for sure. And we've done it on kind of our first set of configurations, types of products that we work in, most notably general industrial, automotive, and kind of the architectural space, where, in architectural, a lot of it's just long aluminum typical vertical lines, etc. In automotive, it's usually parts lines, like you're coating springs or components or things like that. In the agricultural construction equipment, it's usually parts. And each of these parts has sometimes a pretty heavy mass. You're dealing with large steel, large mass steel parts for a bulldozer or an excavator, a piece of farm equipment. And there's different, based on the size and the mass of that part, you have to get the base metal temperature up to a certain level. And then you based on the curing temperature of the different polymers that we have in our powder coatings, you can tune all that a lot faster, but it does take time to build that up. We have a pretty good base to start with. We did some testing where we picked our best in the world, our best technical service reps who have been tuning lines for 30 years in many occasions. And we put them up against the CoatingAI program. And the CoatingAI program beat our very best technical rep several times in trials that we did in a laboratory setup.
About that.
So that just gave us confidence that, yes, this technology is real. It does help to optimize. You certainly still have to have knowledgeable people. It's not like a robot. You can't just, you got to, but it's a different way of, bringing that technology. Like, for example, we were at a big truck manufacturer in South America, and they were talking about they had 5 engineers on this new line for 3 weeks tuning the line. And as they were working on those 3 weeks, the truck parts that they were coating, they were having to set off to the side a certain percentage that had defects and things, and they'd have to either scrap them or run them through or fix the defects. We put the CoatingAI stuff on this line, and they basically got it tuned in like an afternoon, 6-8 hours. Yeah. And that whole difference in time, defect rate was really, really helpful and beneficial, and it gave us a lot of confidence that this technology can work. But it is, it's very line specific, and it's very much dependent on what the customer is using the line for, and how many different part shapes are they running through it, and at what production rate, film thickness. There's 25, 30 variables that matter, but that's what makes it valuable for AI, because the computer doesn't care how much data you throw at it.
Right.
It's very beneficial.
You mentioned the human angles. I think that's interesting because there's a couple of different perspectives that come into play anytime you mention AI. So at the top of the chain, there's people who see AI as a solution for addressing some of the workforce development challenges that we all know are coming, particularly when it comes to coding applications over the coming years and decades. There's been a lot of studies about that. And so potentially AI comes into play there. On the other end of the spectrum, you also have some of your more end users, your applicators, who get a little bit apprehensive every time you talk about this new technology doing things that historically humans have done, because potentially that could take away a job for them or another human. So what's the balance there? How do you sort of, I guess, explain the human perspective and the role that humans have in this, both in terms of, addressing some of the workforce development challenges, while at the same time still preserving some roles for humans in the oversight of this AI program?
Yeah. So my perspective, I'm an engineer by training. Mm-hmm. So the way I look at a lot of these things, when you have robotics or AI formulas, helping you optimize, yes, that may take. It's, to me, about productivity in an engineering sense. So if I think about this just in the context of powder coating on an application line, to me, this is all about refining the line so that you can have less defects, less waste, better use of energy, your sustainability profile, film thickness, you name it, everything you touch can be optimized. Yep. And so I don't necessarily view it myself as a fear of a job loss, but I will say the more manual tasks are going to need to be upskilled, and more people are going to have to learn, how, this is why we talk about STEM education and technical, even if you don't go to an engineering degree, having some vocational technical knowledge, how to program stuff. You're no longer going to be doing manual tweaking on lines. You're going to be programming it in a computer interface. If you look at it 20 years ago, most of the guns in powder were all manual guns. You had human beings in booths all wrapped up, spraying powder. Today, that's almost entirely automated. All the gun manufacturers, the spray booth manufacturers, they've all...
Yep.
Everything is robotic now, and so those jobs are gone. But we experienced that over the last 20 years. Those jobs have now evolved into probably technician roles of tuning those guns, learning how to program them, learning how to get the different film thicknesses on the parts, learning more about what high quality means in a process in processing the powder coatings. So to me, I think it's more of an evolution. When I think about it in the context of powder coating, I don't view it as a job eliminator and a big fear. I think it's an evolution of productivity, efficiency.
Yep.
I mean, we have to all be more productive. Our customers demand it. We demand it. I think the sustainability message around efficient use of materials and energy demand it. And that in and of itself is worthy, I think, of keep pursuing these new innovations that help us tune and optimize to the best processing we can get to in the industry.
Yeah, I guess evolution is the right way to look at it, because historically, there's what I would call a feedback loop between a contractor and a manufacturer. Obviously, on your end, as a manufacturer of coatings, the technical features of your products are only as good as the end application. So you want to be a resource to contractors to make sure that they're following the right guidelines, that they're on spec with their applications, and so on and so forth. And that's still important. You want to keep the lines of communication open. But as we get into more and more robotics and highly specialized tools and AI and the advanced technologies that we've been talking about, it seems like it's a bit less of just communication. How exactly do I apply it? And more sort of that role evolving to, okay, here are the tools, here are the technologies that are going to, if properly optimized, apply these systems exactly at the spec that we want. It's just making sure that as a contractor that I understand how to handle this system, right? Is that the evolution? That it's less about, learning, how exactly to hold a hose or whatever the tool may be. And now it's more, okay, we have the tools to get this application right, but how do we make sure that we understand the technical side of these tools and making sure that they work as they're supposed to, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And again, it may be daunting to certain, contractors in the industry because, anytime you go from manual situations to highly, automated situations, there is a learning curve. And one of the keys for AkzoNobel for us is to help our customers through that learning curve. I know the equipment manufacturers have been doing it for years. As they've rolled out new equipment, it's more digitized, it's more robotic. They have also brought education and training and support to the industry. In many cases, we've connected with the equipment manufacturing tech reps that are out in the field with our technical reps out in the field, and we help customers jointly in many cases. But we've rolled that into our offering. That's one of the big elements of AkzoNobel's. We not only offer a wide range of products, but we offer very technical support to help customers tune these lines and get them so that they can be efficient in what they're processing. Because we're only successful if our customers are successful in winning in their space. And they're not going to win in their space with a high cost, defect prone line that's not being applied properly, and their customers don't believe in the coating that's being applied. That's not going to be successful for us either. So we bring that as a core part of our offering, product plus the technical support, and now we're adding this CoatingAI capability to that offering, and I think it's going to take us to the next level.
Great insight there from Jeff Jarak, Managing Director of AkzoNobel's Powder Coatings business. Last question Is there anything else on the horizon as far as the remainder of 2024? We've talked about some of the trends in the industry, what you've had going on in DC at the beginning of June. We talked about CoatingAI. Yeah. Is there anything else on the horizon in terms of the remainder of this year that you think is worth sharing with our audience?
Well, we continue to have a lot of projects in the pipeline in our innovation centers around the world. We have a large center in Pennsylvania in the U.S. We have a large center in Europe in our big Como, Italy site. And then we have a large technical center in Shanghai in China. And we use these innovation centers, and there's a lot of new innovation coming in the areas. We continue to refine our traditional areas of performance and durability, corrosion resistance, et cetera. I think the big advances are in the sustainability realm, where we're modifying areas of the chemistry where we can work on film thickness, so that if you think about, if you can get the same performance with a smaller, thinner film thickness, you get more throughput in your line, you use less coating, you use less energy to cure that coating. These are all elements of what a good sustainable offering is, and continuing to work on the overall carbon footprint. We're doing work with innovating with our suppliers on new innovations in resin technology, resins that are developed from more better sustainable profiles, if you will. There's a lot of work going on there. And then I think, generally speaking, in aesthetics, we've done a lot of work on different types. We've pretty much got to the point you can almost put any type of look on metal. So, we've done a lot of launches of work where we do stone look, for example. And you think about an architect, we just spoke with several of them in Washington this week, that said, at the base level of a large skyscraper, they use actual stone for the first 1, 2, maybe 3 stories, but you don't put stone up usually higher than the 3rd story. And what they need is, they wanted a stone look that they could put on aluminum for the facade that would exactly match the stone of the first 3 floors, so that when you look at it, it's exactly the same. And we launched the stone look in our collection for architectural, and that innovation in and of itself, how you get a stone look on metal, you're looking at different particle sizes, peaks and valleys, how you get the look. And there's a lot of innovation that's going on in that, just to get that aesthetic look. But in the end, the architect likes it because they can offer now, a very cost-effective, very economical, very sustainable solution, all the way up as high as the building goes, beyond that base floor level, which is usually pretty costly at the base floor level. And then they can make it very economical, lightweight. You can do different effects with the coatings to manage different elements of the environment, heat management, things like that, with different colors, different textures. And so I would say aesthetics has been an area we've been pushing. We've been pushing a lot on sustainability and how you manage the chemistry of the different coatings. And then I think, just generally speaking, we've done a lot of work on electric vehicles, battery packs, where it's a little bit more of a functional coating, where you're trying to manage electrical resistivity using different polymers in the powder coating itself. And so there's lots of areas like that of innovation that are underway. But I think it really boils down to heavy in sustainability, heavy in aesthetics, and different types of looks that allow for more options and creativity, I think. Especially in architectural and in some cases the consumer goods space. And then the whole electric vehicle, electric mobility area is a very fruitful area of innovation as well. And that's more tied to the functional nature of the polymers.
And for any listeners that want to learn more, I'm guessing the best place to get that is the website, AkzoNobel.com, or AkzoNobel on LinkedIn. Any other plugs you want to throw out?
Yeah, please come to the website. We have a very active Interpon website. Our brand name is Interpon for our powder coatings, and then our functional coatings, mostly in the EV space, are branded with ResiCoat. there's full information on the website. And if you want to hear more, you want some more information, there's ways to connect directly to us through the website. We have, like I said, we have 33 manufacturing sites around the world. We have sales reps in almost every country you could imagine. And so there's people that can reach out in local languages as well. So, please come to the website, and we look forward to advancing powder coatings in the industries.
Good stuff. Folks, that is Jeff Jarak, Managing Director of AkzoNobel's Global Powder Coatings business. Again, you can learn more about AkzoNobel's products, resources, and services at www.akzonobel.com. And with that, we'll bring this episode to a close. On behalf of AMP, I'm Ben Dubose, and if you want more resources from us or our publications within the association, just visit amp.org, coatingsformag.com, or materialsperformance.com. As always, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon with another new episode.
Thank you.